welcome to today's episode of Day to Day with Dorothy, where I'm dancing. Dancing for you to the music in my head. Okay, so today we are on episode 2 of our new series, Confidence, a Leader's BFF. So today I'm going to be sharing a little about my leadership journey. And I am your host, your personal change agent. That's my business jujitsu, Dorothy McBride. That's me. So thanks for tuning in, and we are going to jump in. But first, you may be wondering about the zhuzh and where it's all coming from. Hey, Eric, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Day to Day with Dorothy. So today's look is brought to you by Elise Beauty. You can find her on Instagram at Elise, A-L-I-S-E, P as in Patterson, Beauty on IG. Thanks to all the IG folks tuning in. Welcome, welcome. So she can get you right. She is here in the MKE, and she will have you looking flawless, ready for your day. So thanks to all of you for tuning in and taking a break with me on this Friday afternoon. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about my leadership journey. And we all have one, right? But here's the thing. Here's what I've realized over the last decade plus of doing this line of work. A lot of us don't take the time to reflect. We just are oftentimes we are so future focused that we might get a win, we might accomplish something, and then we're like, on to the next. And so when we're in middle school, we're thinking about, what do I need to do to get to high school? When we're in high school, what do I need to do to get to college? When we're in college, what do I need to do to get the job? To the point that sometimes I think we miss a little bit of life. And over the last couple of days, I've kind of been reflecting as I've been looking at my baby, and I'm like, gosh, you are getting so big. You are such a big girl. And I've been looking at myself like, Dorothy, like talking to myself like I'm a baby. Dorothy, you are such a big girl. Look at you. So you might be thinking like, okay, well, what have you done, Dorothy? What's going on? So I was looking at the calendar and I realized it's been almost a year since I've been out of corporate. And that means something to me for a few different reasons, because when I left my corporate job the first time to pursue my dreams, pursue my passion, my purpose, promptly had to go back to work 6 months later. And that was devastating. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I go into my leadership journey. But because it's almost been a year, I'm like, wow, okay. I must be doing a little something right. And then I think that begs a little bit of a look back and a reflection from a purpose-driven, move forward type of mental mindset. So I think as leaders, as adults, we're all leaders, but I think as adults too, sometimes we don't look back to see how much we've actually done. And instead we do quite the opposite. We hit a roadblock, an obstacle, and then we start to think, well, this is why I'm not that good at this. This is why I should be doing X. This is why I can't do Y. And if we took time to take stock of how much we've actually accomplished, I think the roadblocks wouldn't be so devastating and so distracting, because we'd be trusting the process. And here's the thing, we don't grow from winning. A lot of times we grow from losing, we grow from screwing up, we grow from failing, because that's how we build our muscles of tenacity, persistence, resilience. So one of the first things that I've learned about in this journey is this whole concept around self-awareness. I've always considered myself a pretty self-aware person, but when you are being deliberate about your path and you're being intentional, it begs this opportunity, if you will, and the challenge to look inward and be introspective. How am I showing up? How do people perceive me? How do I come across? All of these things contribute to how we show up as a leader, because we've all had leaders in our space, whether we report to them or not. But leadership is influence, right? So we're all leaders in some capacity, but we want to be self-aware, because in order to move mountains and move molehills, the first step is to know thyself. How do I show up? How do I come across? How are people perceiving me? And I remember being at this job, and I was working like in a plant, right? So, you know, if you've ever worked in a plant, you know that they can be like pretty sterile. Like there's, you know, you need to be dressed a certain way. Like, you know, your hair might need to be up. You might need to wear gloves just to keep the environment sterile. So I was working at this plant, and one of the leaders that I had been working with, just out of the blue, I'd probably been there maybe 8-9 months, out of the blue, she says, "Is this really the job you want?" Mind you, I'm partnering with her on training and development stuff. And she says, "Is this really the job you want?" And I'm like, "Girl, what you mean? Like, I need a paycheck. I like my every 2 weeks, like clockwork, that direct deposit." And she's like, "You know, you just don't seem like you fit in here. Not that we don't like you. It's just, it seems like I just see you doing something else." And I'm like what? And so she says, "I see you working at like a magazine, or working in some place like fashionable, or, you know, because we wear our polos and our jeans, and, you know, we don't wear makeup, and all of these, and these are things that you seem to enjoy and embrace. And it just seems like this might not be the environment that would maximize what makes you you." And truth be told, like, she was right. But at the same time, and mind you, I didn't go in looking like this. You know, I just was trying to keep it at a low roar. But that's that self-awareness piece. I knew that me working in a plant in this sterile environment where you got to wear like safety goggles, gloves, this, that, the third, I knew that that would not be my final landing place. But if I didn't have that self-awareness, I think sometimes when people are giving us feedback, we sometimes get offended, or we take it the wrong way. And in my mind, that's not how she intended it at all. I felt like it was coming from a good place. And so when I took the step back in that conversation, I was like, yeah, you know, I do see myself doing something different. But on my leadership journey, this is where the thumbtack has placed itself for now. And so in this space, I want to do the very best job that I can do. But I do see myself, you know, being in a position where I can get dressed and do my makeup and comb my hair. And all of these things are exciting, and wear dangly earrings. Because at that location, we weren't allowed to have any type of drip, drop, hang, nothing. It needed to be a stud or nothing at all. And so for me mentally, working there in that type of environment where it's like, I was like, yeah, I know that this isn't the ideal environment for me, and I'll wait to see where my leadership journey takes me next, while being proactive, of course. But self-awareness is important. Knowing thyself, so that you can, as much as possible, try to position yourself in places and spaces that really speak to who you are as an individual and as a leader. The second thing that I've learned along this leadership journey that has had so many twists and turns, ups, downs, sideways, hills and valleys, is this idea of self-efficacy. And you might be like, what is that? Just this concept of believing in yourself. I know throughout my 20s, I really struggled with this idea of believe in yourself. I really struggled with it. And I remember this one particular story. It was December 6th, 2012. I was living in California, And I was on the highway driving from Northern California to Southern California. I had $75 in my bank account. My car was packed to the brim with my television. I think I had, what else did I have in there? Some custom paintings that I had gotten done maybe a couple years prior, all my clothes, shoes, and the drive from Northern California to Southern California is normally like 6 hours, maybe 6.5. For whatever reason, and the weather was bad on this particular day. It's raining, it's dark, darker than usual. Like the world was black. And this particular ride took me 10 hours. It was the longest 10 hours of my life because I was driving back home at 30 years old to go live with my parents because essentially I had failed. I had quit a good job where I had recently been promoted to go launch my business full time and to go pursue my dream. And promptly, just as quickly as I was waving bon voyage to SoCal, I was finding myself quickly on the way back. Like, dang, man, I have failed. How am I going to come back from this? What am I going to do? I'm always the girl with the plan, and all of a sudden, I have no plan. I don't have the next step in my back pocket. And I think that is life. And ultimately, we don't learn from always winning. We learn from failing. And let me tell you, as devastated as I was, I felt embarrassed. I felt like, man, Dorothy, what were you thinking? But while I think some would respond to that and say, I'm never going to launch a business again, I told myself, if and when I launch a business again, because I do see that in my future, but if I ever do that again, I will be better prepared. I will not make the same mistakes that I made this last time. I will do it differently so that I'm not finding myself in the same exact position, because I will never forget December 6th, 2012, ever. But the things that I learned during that 6-month stint away from corporate about managing my business and managing business in general and being an entrepreneur, priceless. I don't know that there's any class that could have taught me the things I learned in that 6-month time frame. And then I guess there's like a part A and a part B. So another thing that I've learned along the leadership journey, which I think I've always embraced in general, is this idea of having a thirst for learning. I have always loved school. I don't know that I'd go back like full time or anything. I don't see a doctorate in my future, but I love learning. I love learning new things. I love learning my craft and honing it. And one of the things that I had to learn with that first business was how to write. So I was running this magazine publication. Jesus told me to do it. And she had gotten a D in journalism. So as a leader, imagine what it does to my confidence to be able to speak to what it is that I do when I'm looking at this document that says, you suck at this. Because a D in my crazy Caribbean Belizean household stands for dunce. So if a D stands for dunce and you're not as competent and as capable as you'd like to be, why in the world would you start a magazine publication doing something that you don't have skill at? But again, that's where my leadership journey took me. And so I wanted to explore that space. But again, it really impacted my confidence knowing that at least on a collegiate level, I was not excelling in this area. And now I'm putting myself in this position where on a quarterly or biannual basis, I need to produce this full-blown publication. So what I did was take a step back and realize and understand that sometimes we build confidence through competence. So if I can take the time to study and become a better writer, that will help me be confident in the fact that I am publishing this magazine and offering it to the masses on a regular basis. So I took a writing class with a mentor of mine who got it all the way in gear, and my writing improved tremendously. There were tears, there was ugly crying, there was a little bit of rocking back and forth, but the improvement in my writing and my dedication to just wanting to learn and hone the craft and get better at it made a huge difference. Completely. Best $800 I ever spent. Amazing, worth the investment. And for those of you wondering and thinking like people aren't going to buy my stuff because they can't afford it, people will find a way to buy the things that they want. Because at that time, I did not have $800, and I made a way out of no way. My dad helped me with some of it. I put in a little bit of money to it, and then the boyfriend I had at the time put in a little bit of money to it. And so between the three of us, we were able to gather the money that I needed to be able to take this class that was going to make all the difference. So a thirst for learning is something that I think has been pivotal on my leadership journey. And last but not least, before we close out of our break time and today's episode of Day to Day with Dorothy, because I really do believe confidence is a leader's BFF, is this idea of trusting the process. And let me tell you, easier said than done. We are humans and we like to be in the know, especially when we are type A, and especially when we like to plan and we want to try to control the outcome as much as possible. But when we trust the process, we have an opportunity to unfold in a way that will even surprise us. And I think that's the best part. Some of the things that have happened in the last year as I've been on this journey of entrepreneurship, I've finally gotten a tighter focus on my business. Finally. And at the time, I didn't even realize that it was not focused. I thought it was the most focused I've ever been. But I have realized that it needed to be even more focused and more niche. I have learned that through trusting this process, I sometimes need to take a step back and go to sleep. Listen, I don't know about you, but I know for me, Jesus blesses the nap. So sometimes when I don't know what else to do, I will go to sleep and rest on it to allow my mind and my body to recharge, because I know that I'm operating in my purpose. And it's not just a passion for me, but I know in this space, I'm doing what I am supposed to be doing. So it is going to inherently make room for me, but I got to trust the process. I got to do my work. I got to do my part, but I got to trust the process. And I think, especially being so type A, she's a Gemini, it is not always the easiest thing, but I know that when I'm like fighting and striving and pushing, I don't get the results that I could have gotten if I sink into it and really dig my heels in and say, let me be still so that I can do what I am supposed to do, instead of trying to make a way where there isn't, like, make it fit when it's not fitting. I think that's what I did for the majority of my career in corporate, trying to make the square peg, her, fit in this round hole, corporate, where it just wasn't working. And now in this space, it's stressful for sure, but it's a different kind of stress where I can still sleep at night and I'm not waking up like, I don't have that anymore. I don't have the Sunday blues anymore. Different kind of stress. It's not that it's not stressful, but I'm in a space where I feel like I'm giving my leadership room to do what it will do naturally and inherently, because I'm trying to trust the process on a daily basis, trying to effectively just lean in and lean back so that I am giving the universe space to give me all my blessings in these 2019 streets and operating in a space of expectation. So it is my goal to get in alignment every day at some point in the day so that I can be sparkly and get stuff done and be as confident as I can be and, essentially pep myself up. So that's what I've learned. I've learned a ton of stuff, but that's kind of what I picked out as I've been reflecting on the fact that I've been out of corporate for almost a year. Self-awareness is really important if we are going to be the best leaders that we can be, especially because we're influencing others. That's what leadership is. It's influence. But leadership is also an inside job. It starts with us. Self-efficacy, huge. It can make the biggest difference when you believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in you, I could tell you every single day, all day, 400 times a day that I believe in you. It's going to fall flat until you start to subscribe to the idea yourself. A thirst for learning has made a huge difference for me. If we're going to be doing something, let's hone our craft and let's always make it a point to be learning what else is out there so that we can be the best at whatever it is that we do, and then trusting the process. I know, easier said than done. I'm preaching to myself just as much. But when we trust the process, it gives our leadership room and space instead of us trying to box it in to what we can only see with our naked eye. It makes a huge difference to me. So with that, that is what I have for you today. Again, if you like this content, you will love, it's my shameless plug, you will love the Business Besties, which is where Shayla and I, the co-founders of Lip Lock, share all things business, life, and style, and sometimes we're pretty funny. So if you like this content, you will love the Business Besties podcast. Tune in wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. iTunes, Spotify, CastBox, Anchor, wherever you listen to your podcast, it's probably there and available so that you can get your whole life, snatch them edges, lay them down, get that hair straight, whatever it is. We got you. And then last but not least, if you share this video, you have an opportunity to win free one-on-one bestie time with me. So a little bit of coaching and development in the leadership and personal development space, my forte. And that is what I do at Lip Lock. That is what I focus on. That is my purpose. So if you want an opportunity to win some one-on-one coaching with me and we can talk about all things leadership and personal development, all you got to do is share this video on Facebook. Or if you're on Instagram, you can tag 3 friends on a Lip Lock post, and then that's how I will find you. So hopefully this has been helpful as you start to reflect on your own leadership journey, because you have one and it is epic. Trust me, if you write it down or plot it out on a map, you will be impressed with what you have accomplished over the last several years and over your entire life for the most part. So your leadership journey can start as early as 2 years old or as late as, 16. So hopefully this has been informative as we think about things that we've learned on our own leadership journeys, and hope to see you here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Day to Day with Dorothy. Hopefully I covered everything. I'm looking at my notes. I feel like I forget something every episode. Yeah, whatever. But I will see you next week. And I'm doing a little dance for you. Doing a little dance. Dancing, dancing, dancing. Dancing machine.